Good. So welcome to the NGI Pointer Webinar. There's already been a more extensive webinar of the NGI ecosystem. And we also have Jean-Luc Dorel from the European Commission to give a quick overview of this today. But today's webinar is very much about the NGI Pointer project, the scope of the project, what we're looking for, and then, of course, how to apply for funding. And we finish it off with a question and answer session if you have anything specific that you want to ask. If questions pop up along the way of the webinar, please ask them in the chat. I'll read them out and then we try to answer them as best as possible. So after this welcome, I would like to hand over to Jean-Luc to give a bit of context where this NGI program comes from and how big it actually has become so far already. So Jean-Luc, I invite you to give your perspective, please.
Yes, thank you, Mirko. Thanks everyone to be on this call as well as listening to it in replay. My name is Jean-Luc Dorel. I'm a project officer in the European Commission, dealing with a number of next generation internet projects, including NGI Pointer, which is the projects that we are talking today. Few words on next generation internet. This initiative started with some reflection on the evolution of the internet a couple of years ago at the European Commission with the following understanding. We are seeing an evolution of the internet towards large aggregators on one end, which built up a massive infrastructure, drive evolution of the internet, exploit talents like no one can on one end, and exploiting the end-to-end principle of the internet by working on top of the internet infrastructure. And on the other hand, we see internet infrastructure use with political mindset, with a strong censorship and strong inroads inside the privacy of citizens. And European Commission Europe values, are not along those lines. Europe has been built on openness, respect of values, including privacy, including inclusiveness, including transparency and collaboration across border. So this reflection led to the notion that we should, in Europe, contribute to an internet that is faithful to these values and principles, and an internet that is trustable. In other words, that we can rely on for not only conducting our usual activity that we are already doing, but also doing more for social and economic greater impact. Because if we trust more the internet, we will be able to share more, and by doing that, we will increase the overall value. That's the notion of a human-centric internet. It's an internet in which we have more control over our digital experience, in which we are able to share data on a more controlled way, which is fully protective of privacy and consent, and an internet that at the end we trust. The way we implemented that is a bit different from classical European projects, and it's to a large extent complementary to this existing practice. The way we address the issue is by identifying the talents that can actually change the course of the internet by developing code and programs and design, and put it in practice with a small scale project, with small team, but with the right talents. As a matter of fact, as of today, we have about 300 third parties funded in NGI, and 90% never receive any European Commission or European Union funding. So the logic behind next generation internet is both on a mission, on a purpose, which is a trustable, dependable, human-centric internet, and an actionable communities of talents that implement things in reality, in the real world. The population, the demographics of these 300 parties that we have today, 39% are individuals, so they are making proposals and they are contracted as natural persons. We have about 30%, 32% as startups or so legal structure that are accounted as SMEs, in fact, in our language. And we have 14% institutions like research institutions and universities, and the rest is various foundations, NGOs, and things like that. So you see, it's a different split from classical European Union projects where you see more predominantly big universities and corporations. It's a way more agile system, because these third parties are not interacted with Commission, they are interacted with the intermediaries that gets the money from the Union. So it's an indirect action. And in the case of NGI Pointer, we are very happy to have a good consortium made of experienced beneficiaries that will interact and will attract and will award and will monitor the work of the third parties. So your contact point will be NGI Pointer project, and Commission is giving money to NGI Pointer. So it's an indirect model. It's very important to understand that because it's at the basis, at the core of what Next Generation Internet is doing as a program. Now, if we focus on NGI Pointer, and as I said, it's part of a number of initiatives related to privacy, related to data portability, related to decentralized architecture, related to identity management and identities. So if we focus on NGI Pointer, which is the project that gather all of us here today, we are very delighted to have this team and this topic, which is unlike the other, a relatively blue sky one, which has some advantage and also some challenges. But if we reflect back on the internet architecture, which was designed already 50 years ago, and which works well. I mean, it's not up to us to make some negative statement. But if we look at the basic assumption for its design, we have to agree and notice that it was made among parties that trust each other fundamentally. So that is computer science department of US universities. So privacy was not a major concern. Security was not a major concern. It took decades before RFCs got a security statement inside it. And also another dimension that popped up recently is that the initial designer has no regards to the CO2 footprint, so electricity consumption linked with the infrastructure. So this dimension is not existent at all. And the world evolved over time, and this project comes at the right point in time to reassess some of these basic assumptions and propose solutions. So that's why the consortium built a full work program that is now available and open. Few words about the principles guiding us in this endeavor. This is not to Commission or to NGI Pointer to make any statement on if we should restart from zero or go for an evolutionary path. All proposals are welcome. Will be evolutionary, be revolutionary. What counts is that we understand the limits of each approach. And again, in the debate of centralization, decentralization, federation, it all depends on what is proposed. And again, this is a neutral recipe for proposals. The proposal will be evaluated under merit, technical and excellence, as well as implementation, and that's the criteria along which you will be selected. So there are no fundamental assumption on what type of architecture should be done, but there are a number of hints and areas where you will be asked to make proposals, as well as a kind of open area where completely brand new ID can fit. So I think that's the basic principles and ideas behind the setup of NGI and NGI Pointer. I'm open for any questions remotely, because I think we will go straight to the next point in the agenda, Mirko. But of course, I'm very happy to answer any question as a follow-up of this. And my last word is to thanks for your interest and wish you good luck in any potential proposal that you may make for this project. Mirko,
thank you.
I give you the floor back.
Thank you very much, Jean-Luc. That was a very good introduction to the NGI. And if you have questions, please post them in the chat. We will pick them up at the latest in the Q&A. So I haven't actually introduced myself earlier on, neither have I the consortium. So you can see this on this slide. So my name is Miko Presser, and I'm from Aarhus University, which is the coordinator of the project. And I'm with Funding Box, Linknovate, and Digital Works. And on the call we have, for instance, Pablo and David from, and Claire, of course, from Funding Box. And we also have Madlena as a colleague from me from Aarhus University. So I've been sort of working with the NGI from the beginning, doing the pathfinding mission, which was very exciting to be part of this the startup of the NGI. And now we're getting actually to the project that I myself was very excited about, which, you know, Jean-Luc already explained, is about revisiting the internet architecture and looking at possibilities of how to work with the existing stock, or maybe reimagine it in the future as well. So the project is about internet architecture renovation. Maybe not the snappiest title, so we often talk a little bit differently about it, like the NGI architects changing the fabric of the internet and the web, or looking at re-engineering architecture of the internet, or something like this. But the scope is very, very open, like Jean-Luc explained. We have about 5.6 million euros in funding that we can provide to third parties. And the scope is very much on this internet architecture, web components, tools and methods. So this is not about specific applications and services that we're looking for. There are other sister and brother projects under this NGI umbrella that can target this. However, having said that, we have a scope. We also want to be within that scope, very blue sky, very bottom-up projects. So we offer a lot of flexibility in working with the individuals on new topics, new ideas. We don't know what we want. This is not a tender. This is a very open process. And this is now our first open call. The project started in January, so we launched our first open call in April. We're closing it 1st of June. And there's an evaluation process. There's a bit of a summer vacation, hopefully, and then a startup process right after that summer vacation, the projects and teams that we want to go ahead with. On the right-hand side of this slide, you can see the topics that we list in the work program. So we're not limited to those topics. So the last topic is, for instance, very open. But these are challenges or interests where we think you could get inspired. And I'll pick out a few later on and talk about them. There's, of course, also overlap to the other projects that are already running and providing open calls. That's unavoidable, of course. But I think there's a lot of new and interesting, exciting points in here as well. So what are we looking for? So first of all, a very boring slide, I think. But I think if you feel uncomfortable with this type of topics or what we're looking for here, then it will be a challenge for you to get into this program. But if you can see, okay, yeah, sure, I can be part of this these bullet points, and you're definitely a person that we're looking for. So we are scoring these proposals based on minimum quality criteria as an initial point. And we want you to have 2 out of those 5 that we're listing here. So the first one is contributing to open source. Second one is contributing to internet architecture communities. Third one is publications in the scientific field of internet architecture. Fourth, internet or web SME startup with European values. So these values Jean-Luc already went through, that include, for instance, control, trust, transparency, neutrality, and so on. Then also other means of contributing to the internet and web communities. Usually you provide this in terms of link, but it's also, of course, embedded in your persona, in the personality of yourself. That becomes very important, and I'll get to that in a minute. The other part that we're, of course, looking for is the impact that you're trying to generate with the work that you're doing. So we're also looking for a minimum 2 out of 3 here. The first one is very important for us. It's that it's something demonstrable that you are providing. So this is working code. It doesn't need to be rolled out, of course, but it has potential to be rolled out. And we want to see that it works. It's either a software or hardware solution. It's a contribution to an open source software community, for instance, in terms of code, as an example. So open source contributions, that's an important one, as well as potentially standardization and rollout potential in terms of internet scale, of course. And then finally, the scope also is very, very important. It is about internet architecture, web components, tools, and methods. So this needs to be somewhere embedded in a persona. And that's what we really are looking for. These are NGI architects. The individual or the organization that the individual is embedded is very important to us. So we probably will face a lot of natural persons, European-based researchers, developers, hackers, internet activists, for instance. But we might also experience some, SMEs, startups, as well as universities. And we still look at the person that is applying. And even if it maybe is an established organization, they might work with a lot of open source software. Maybe they need to modify some components or update some aspect of an operating system like a Linux kernel or something like this. That also makes sense to us, but we still look at who the individuals are that are applying and how they're fitting into the program. So this is very, very important to us when you apply. What you get when you apply is up to 200,000 euros, and David will explain a little bit more about this, but in essence, it's a maximum of 200,000 euros. This doesn't matter what constellation you come in. However, if you come in as a natural person individually, you can only get up to 50,000 euros. But if you come as a team of 4, you can again hit the ceiling of 200,000 euros. Very bottom up, very blue sky within the scope and the parameters that I explained earlier. And what you get is a program of up to 12 months to spend the money. We will develop with you a bespoke mentoring program. So there will be a few milestones and checkpoints that you will have, but if you don't want any specific help, we will boil it down to the basic checkpoints. If you would like to have some help, then we will try and fulfill those wishes that you have. So it'll become a very very tailored program for every project that we have. We don't run you through a specific setup. So now a little bit more to some of the ideas that we have that could be good points of starting projects. I'm not going to go through all of them, so you can read them in the work program, and you can find that, of course, on our website. And what I would like instead to do is maybe pick out two that could be interesting. So I'm picking out limitations in the TCPIP protocol suite, and then energy efficiency as an example. They're two good ones, I think. So if we look at the first one, and Jean-Luc already explained this, we now internet architecture is basically the protocols have been developed a while ago. The world has changed, and the original requirements might not have included all of the application requirements that we have these days. So in particular, when we're talking about security or scalability of certain components. And in the case of TCP/IP, we can see that, for instance, new features such as edge computing or let's say machine-to-machine economy or autonomous networks and so on, they put some new constraints and requirements onto the networking and transport layers of the protocol stack. So this could be a good way of looking or revisiting this. So there are already initiatives out there that exist for several years, like RENA, for instance. But that's definitely something that we're interested in. Another one that could be very interesting is looking at energy efficiency. So we have now a massive rise in ICT tools being used globally. More and more, the economy shifts towards an internet-based economy, with e-commerce being, for instance, one of the large ones. But now also during times of crisis, we can see a lot of our activities shifting to digital tools that put more and more constraints and problems onto an infrastructure that wasn't exactly built for something like this. We're putting fixes and patches on there, and this project is also helping this along, but we can also revisit some of those things. One aspect that we often underestimate is actually the energy efficiency of protocols and methods and tools that we are using in our operations of internet applications and services. And it's also, the infrastructure might not be ideally suited for the means or the ways that we're using certain aspects of the infrastructure. So maybe using some peer-to-peer tools, using some new methods of revisiting the architecture and building around this. So this is also a very exciting topic, I think, that could be addressed by some of the projects. But you can find the full list in the work program with some ideas. The work program was established by, of course, the consortium, but also our very exciting advisory board that includes some of the big names on internet architecture and web. So we have some good lead points on there. So with this, I would like to point you to our website, where you can apply for the funding. The deadline is 1st of June. And I usually get questions also about the picture while we're showing the stormtrooper. This is, of course, Finn, who has switched the sides from the dark side to the light side. So I will then slowly hand over to David, who will give you more details about how to exactly apply for the funding. There's some platforms that we'll be using, as well as some rules and tools that are available to you. And while we're switching over, so David, I'm going to let you take the presenter. There are a couple of questions on the chat, which I will answer in the meantime. Is that okay, David? David, we can't hear you. So in the meantime, we have in the chat a question from Steve. Can team of 4 be founder plus 3 new hires, please? So my understanding of this question is that you want to have it's a legal organization that you are newly founding and you're applying through this. Steve, please elaborate. You can unmute yourself if you'd like to.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
can you hear me?
Yes. And
yes.
So
I cannot hear you. Can you please confirm in the chat if you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes. Okay. Because I have troubles with the sound. I will share my screen.
Okay. So in the meantime, Steve, I think I'll answer that a little bit later, and then we also have a question from Rafael, and we answer that later because we now have David, who's able to go ahead. So David, please go ahead.
Okay. I'm starting now. Okay. So first of all, I introduce myself. I'm David. I'm working at Funding Box, one of the partners of the NGI Pointer, and our basic role here is to manage the open calls, and I will explain you how to go into the process to start your application in Funding Box. We have our open call management system, and these are very basic guidelines about how to apply. And if you have further questions, please send them through the chat and we will try to solve them as soon as possible. So this is the landing page. This is one of the links that Miko has shared on his presentation. So please remind that you have to first of all apply on time. The deadline is on the 1st of June at 13 hours Brussels time. This is the link and this is the landing page. And one important thing about the open call basically is about the eligibility criteria. Miko has already explained that the most important thing for us is the people. So the important thing is about the team or the people applying to our open call. And this is why we accept both natural or legal persons. This means that the important thing for us to assess is about the experience of the team, and you can apply as an individual, as a team of people, or under a legal person. This means that you can be working at an SME, startup, NGO, research center, university. So basically, this is an open call which is open for all. The other thing that you have to demonstrate is your proven experience in internet architecture. Miko has already listed this at least 2 out of 5 criteria that you have to comply with. So basically what you have to provide is a link or a reference that you have to put on the application about each one of these 5 minimum quality criteria. So if you at least comply with these 2 minimum criteria, which is a yes/no assessment, if you comply, then you will be eligible and you will pass to the next stage for the external evaluation. One important thing to refer is the work program that Miko has already explained. And as he said, these are like bottom-up blue sky areas. So this is an open guidance, not a list closed of topics. This means that we are allowing you to apply if you are fitting within one of these areas that has to be related to privacy by design, internet at the edge, network optimization, virtualization, insulation, limitations of the TCPIP protocol issue. This is a long list. You have the work program as a reference. So if you fit with one of these areas, this is okay. We are fine, but this does not condition the eligibility of your project. So at the end of the day, this is like a guidance about what NGI Pointer is willing to fund, but this is not a closed list of topics. So you have to demonstrate if you fit with this list of areas. Sorry, these are not topics, but this does not condition at the end the eligibility of your project. If you need support, here we are. Here you are the email where you can send your queries if you have any question. And here you are the specific space within the next generation internet community. So if you want to ask us directly your questions through that channel, you can do, and this will serve as a list of a Q&A source, not only for you, but also for the other members of the NGI community, and specifically for the potential applicants to the NGI Pointer Open Call. And how to apply? This is very, very easy process. This is one of the main characteristics that the NGI initiative has, and all the other cascade funding projects, as is the case of NGI Pointer. We want to make the process as much easy as possible for you. So you have to set up your funding box user and go through the link, and you have to start a new application. So it's a very easy process. Here you are a screenshot of the different sections that you have to fill in, the basic information, the overall information about the project, and the three criteria, evaluation criteria that the external evaluators will analyze: excellence, impact, and implementation. And we have also one statistical section where we have some compulsory questions for you, but this is very easy to fill in, because we are particularly interested in knowing if you are new to the Next Generation Internet Initiative, or if you are new to the Horizon 2020 program. So this is just simply to click on the tick box and inform to us for these statistical questions. The form is fully online, so you can start your application and come back later to complete your application. So no paperwork for you, nothing to sign at this moment. You will only have to sign what is named the sub-grant agreement if you are finally selected to be part of the program. But at this moment, you do not have to sign anything, no paperwork. So the easiest way possible to fill in your application. If you want, you can see at the bottom of the application form that you can export your application as PDF, and you can delete your application at any moment, because you can create, for example, a test application and then create another one, which is the form that you will finally submit, and you can delete your new applications that you can use as a test. The only one that will be considered is the one that you submit, and the one that you submitted first. So please ensure that if you create these test applications, to make the work also smoother for us, to delete all the test applications. Anyway, if we identify them, we will check, and the only one that will be considered is the first one that was submitted. So basically, as a summary, this is an easy process. The average time to apply with this type of application form is no more than 1 day on average. So you don't have to spend a lot of time to fill in your application. If you have already the information about the project, of course, that you might have in a Word document or in other reference application, you simply have to pass all this information to this application form that we have tried to make it as simple as possible. So basic steps, you have to log in or sign up, click on the apply button, start your new application, fill out all the forms, submit your application. So it's very easy. The submit button will appear once you will complete all the compulsory fields in the form, and that's all from the application. Some helpful tips. So you have to remember to submit your application before the deadline. Only the first proposal that has been submitted in normal time will be evaluated. So this is the reason why we ask you to please, if you create test application, delete it, and you will only have one application submitted, because it will make the work smoother also for us, because we will not have to identify and make this double check. Up to you, you can do that, but please do that to make the process smoother for everyone. Submitting your application is available only after that all the red star mark sections are correctly filled out. So the submit button only appears once you will fill all the compulsory fields. You have an option to add contributors on the application submission page. When you start your application, you can add a contributor. So if you have a colleague that you want him or her to help you to fill in your application, and he or she has a funding box user, you can ask your colleagues to provide contents if you need help to do that. And you can always edit the bookmarks and fields until the end of the deadline, even after submission. So some recommendations and tips for you. And this is all from my side. I wanted to be as simple as possible as the application process is. And here you are the contact details. So please contact us, go through the website. There you have all the reference. There you have also the link to the application form, to the open call website. And that's all from my side.
Thank you, David. I don't know if you can hear us. Probably not. So thank you for all the questions already that you posted in the chat. I'm going to reiterate a few of them now while you can ask additional questions. So there's been a question about TRLs. So we stopped the notion of TRLs. Instead, what we are doing is we're talking about deployable and demonstrable code or hardware. That's important to us. So you can sort of translate that into some sort of TRL, but it doesn't really make that much sense in this context to use that. I hope that helped. You can both apply as an existing SME. You can apply as a startup. You can apply as individuals. There's a lot of flexibility how to do this. The big difference is if you are applying as a natural person, your limit is 50,000 per person. If you're applying as a legal person, so as an SME, for instance, your limit is 200,000. But you can join as natural persons together, 4 of them, then you still at the maximum 200,000 as an example. There has been a question if you can apply for funding if you already applied for funding in the NGI initiative or have participated in other NGI initiatives. The answer is yes. However, it has to be, of course, a different project. And we also quite happily overlap with projects that have been funded by another program. If you want to continue it, just be very clear about it. There was a question about can the proposal based on the implementation of a standardization effort in IETF draft? The answer is yes. And then there were some questions about video. I don't know if you can upload a video itself, but you can provide links. And please just make sure that you say this link is important because, and then the reviewers will of course view the video. And there's also a lot of evidence that we want through URLs in terms of the minimum quality requirements. That's supposed to be the proof for the contributions that we've made. Steve asked about the 4 times staff. So the difference is here, if you apply as an SME, then you have a 200,000 limit no matter. If you apply as individuals, natural persons, then you have the 50,000 limit per natural person. So you need to be a team of 4 to do that. Research outcomes are desirable, or they have to be also accompanied with tools, practical solutions. It's from the impacts we require 2 out of 3. So the demonstrable can be removed if you are in the other 2 categories showing the impact, but we would really like to see tools and practical solutions. These don't need to be deployed. They don't need to be with users in the internet architecture, but they need to be. You need to be able to demonstrate them towards us or another community. That would be ideal. Christos, I hope that that worked for you as an answer. Yeah, thank you. So once the projects are funded, you are getting lump sums based on performance. So this is where this individual mentoring plan comes in, or this bespoke mentoring plan. So we will, together with you, based on the application, develop, let's say, 4, maybe 5, sometimes maybe only 3 milestones on which you get payments. And when you meet those milestones, you get the next tranche of payment. The first milestone will be the individual mentoring plan. So that's an easy one to achieve. And then you get your first tranche of payment. The other payments will then be based on the performance of the deliveries that you make, based on the judgment of the mentors. I hope that was also helpful for you, Steve. Are there additional questions? And my colleagues and partners from Funding Box, you can of course also skip in if I have made a blunder or a mistake in the answers that I've made, or if you would like to supplement. There's a question about the presentation. Yes, this will be available both in PDF form, but also as a video, and we will upload it to our website, and it will be shared around also to the people that attended. There's a question from Rafael. Thanks, Miko. Is it incompatible to receive funds from other Horizon 2020 projects for other research activities? Not entirely sure I understand the question, but you can of course participate to other Horizon 2020 projects, but what you are of course bidding for has to be unique for the individual programs. You can't get funding twice for the same, but that's of course obvious. So you're not ineligible if you already have some Horizon 2020 projects of funding. I think I'm up to date with the questions. If not, then please shout. Sometimes it's a bit difficult with the chat, but you can also unmute yourself if you have something specific that's easier to ask using voice instead of text.
Yes, Mirko, can I ask something? It's Christos again.
Yes, please, Christos.
So I wanted to ask you for proving that we match the criteria that you mentioned in the presentation. Outcomes from all the Horizon deliverables that has to do with the internet and new solutions that we have contributed, and it's not, developed only from our team, but it was in the context of an older Horizon project. Can they also be considered as a proof of prior knowledge in the application form?
Yes, absolutely. I think
Okay.
that's perfectly fine.
Thank you.
There's a question from Soumya. Can a consortium of 2 SMEs apply? Yes, we have no limit on this. You can apply with an entire team of 20 organizations if it makes sense. Your limit is still 200,000. And David, he has posted, of course, also a community area, a help desk space where you can post additional questions. And somebody from the funding box team, if David can't hear me, you can also export the chat and take the most important questions out there as well to post them in the FAQ.
Yes, we will do that. And we also have additional Q&As if anyone needs to refer to them.
Yeah, perfect. So if there are more questions, you're welcome to ask now. Otherwise, I think we had a very good webinar, I think. And what exactly does the mentoring constitute? So originally we had some program in mind, but over time and also through the conversation with the Commission, we started loosening that up more and more. So at this point in time, I cannot tell you what this exactly constitutes. It will be a plan that we elaborate jointly when your project gets accepted. So as a bare minimum, we will have milestones that we will check with you if you've met them, so we can pay out the next tranche. And as a maximum, I think anything goes within our capabilities of helping you along with the project. So this could be introducing to communities. This could be helping you find consultants to help you with open source software. This could be creating a workshop with you or finding some user groups. It's a very wide variety of possibilities. It can also include business coaching if you're going in that dimension with the project, but we're open also for suggestions from you. So I hope Andreas had answered that. Are there requirements on how the funds should be spent? Yes, there are some requirements, and I think that's part of the guide for applicants where this is specifically mentioned. But if David, if you would like to put a pointer on this, or Claire, I would be very happy.
Yeah, by the way, I can hear you now. Sorry, before I had troubles to hear you.
No problem.
Yeah, the requirements are related to the milestones and the deliverables that we might ask you to deliver. But this is something that, as Mirko explained before, is something that we will detail in a one-by-one basis under the individual mentoring plan. So, because we understand, and since we care of people, that not every single NGI architect will be able to comply with the same requirements. So this is something that we have to decide with each other. We have like a sort of a standard that are the installments for the payments, but we are eager to help each NGI architect to carry out their project in the best way that they will be able to do. And we have a sort of a standard, several installments, and we will agree with you the specific milestones that we will ask you to comply with to give you these installments of payment along the project.
Exactly. Steve, I am not quite sure I get these two questions about the limit and tick green box. Maybe you can rephrase them. In the meantime, I'll just answer Tiberio. No, you don't. They don't have to have all experience. In particular, when they're employees, we're looking more at the lead and the company and the reasons why they're entering, instead of exactly the individuals in the team. Although it will always be an advantage to have an experienced team. Thank you. Tiberio, yes, why not? I mean, we're looking for bright new ideas, and that sometimes requires new approaches. And then if you're looking at the standard world compared to the new world, you look like a beginner. Reality is you might be the most experienced person in the world. Anka, no, we will not measure by hours. We will measure by performance. So David and Claire, I hope I made no mistakes.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Thank you. And we're slowly drying out. So I would like to thank everybody who joined the webinar, and I would like to, of course, particularly thank Jean-Luc to also take the time to be on the call, and for Funding Box, David, Claire, and Pablo to setting it up. Please also join Twitter. So it's just NGI Pointer. Then you can stay up to date quite easily, but you can of course also come and join the community on Funding Box platform. And yeah, so I would say that we are good on the questions, and thank you very much. And the webinar will be available as a video and the PowerPoints as PDFs. And you can get them via Twitter or from our website.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mirko. Bye bye.
Thank you, Jean-Luc.